Excited to be here tonight. Thank you guys for having me. As Jake said, I am Elizabeth. I am from the North Dakota Women's Business Center. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what I do. I have a little garden, and I was talking to Jake about it before we got started. It isn't, I would wish it was a lot more massive, but it isn't. But these are some of the things that I do with a little bit I get. However, the one on the left is a farmer's market I love to go to. And I religiously go to the same stand. And last year at the end of the year, this was their gift. At the end of the season was just a little basket with these vegetables in it. It was phenomenal. So I had to share a little bit about how I love one of my favorite things is farmers markets. And when they're on, we're there and we're checking everything out. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about marketing tonight. But before we jump in, just talk a little bit about the Women's Business Center so you know our program. So after we're done having a conversation, FARRMS, amazing, is an absolute amazing resource for everyone. So you guys are going on the right path. I'm having a class and working with this entity. I've been able to work with them for the last 3 years in a different facet with the USDA. And it was, they know their stuff. And so kudos to everyone for doing that. The Women's Business Center is also a partner in the space of business. And so we do offer free business coaching and then other connection and networking events. But I know this isn't why we're here today. Just know that we will send this. Jake has said he would send the PowerPoint out. And so you can look at this information later. I want to get to the good stuff, why we're here today. As I go through the presentation, if you have questions, feel free. You can come off mute. You can interrupt me if for some reason I don't see your question, Jake. If there is a question in the chat, you can interrupt me at any time. I have no issues. I taught at a college for almost a decade, and so I'm used to being either interrupted or when I ask a question, blank stares. So in that that space of who's going to answer, right? So totally into all of that. I do have prompting questions for you tonight, though. Not like we're going to get through every single one of them, but as you look at the PowerPoint, you come back to it. I looked at some of the reference materials from the class, and they are phenomenal. But don't feel like you have to answer every question at this point. And know that taking your time to go through what it means, and I think Jake said it as well, what it means for you to do marketing that focuses on your needs. But I always like to look at the why first. So why do I do this? Why do I need to do marketing? Why is it important? First, the first thing we go to is I need to sell stuff, right? I need to sell stuff so I can get more seeds, so I can make more things to sell. It's an endless loop, but that's why we want it. We want to make sure that we have profit margins in order to come back and keep continuing to do the things we love and make the impact that we want to. The other thing is to build sustainable pricing. So marketing shifts farmers out of that commodity pricing and into that value-based pricing, right? You're not trying to do this giant swaths of peppers that all look the same and don't have any marks on them or anything. You're really looking at that value-based pricing, and we'll talk about that throughout the night as well. And I heard you just had a really great session on pricing, so we won't get too far into that. But as I think about pricing, it's something that is important and very unique to each different farm. So next thing is more predictable sales. Who doesn't want predictability? I mean, all of us. I'm a business owner. I started a business about 8 years ago. And when I initially started, I was doing contract work, and probably similar in yours, even if it's not contract work, there's some ebbs and flows when you initially get started. And that doesn't always feel great. You want something predictable. You want to know, hey, I have this income coming in. I have these contracts coming in. And once you build that rapport with people, then it feels better. You get that stress level goes down. And then, fourth most, and I, as a business owner and working with fellow business owners, risk is huge. Especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're taking that next step and you're putting money out there. We need to know, how do we reduce business risk? And marketing is a piece of that. So making sure you diversify your buyers and your sales channels, and then your marketing tactics, it really helps in case one of those items shifts, you'll be able to make it up in other spaces. I love that you are question people. That's awesome. Oops. All right. So before we get started, kind of a little overview, and some of you may have heard this before, right? What are the P's of marketing? And we just shortened them. You might have heard 4 P's of marketing. You might have heard 7 P's of marketing. I've made 4. I like the 4 main ones. If you are a larger entity here tonight, and you are getting into that like mid-size farm, then you will want to go a little bit deeper into your marketing mix. But for tonight, we're going to talk about products. So what are you selling? And I add product and people together. Price. Does this price support sustainability, the places or the channels that you're using, and then promotion and how are we doing that? Now, again, we're not going to get into, okay, we're going to do email marketing here and billboards that you talked about here. We won't get into those specifics, but those are excellent ways of focusing on non-social media marketing. And that's what this presentation will focus on. Less social media, because I know you have an excellent presenter that you're going to watch her video after this. So we'll focus more on the outside and the theory and practice behind it. Behind non-social media marketing, I should clarify. Right. Okay, so when I say marketing time, I cannot talk about marketing if I don't talk about market and I don't talk about me, meaning you, if that's confusing, right? So we have to know and understand our market and what that all entails before we can really take the time to develop a key marketing strategy. And I know sometimes when I'm working with small business owners, I've been working with the Women's Business Center for about 5 years now. First, they contracted my business for 2 years, and now I came on as a director. And so I've met and worked with I'm almost hitting that 400 small businesses. And so whenever we talk about marketing, if they first haven't understood what their market looks like or the different pieces of a market, their marketing plan can be a little choppy. And I feel that sometimes if we try to put a marketing plan out there and we don't understand our market, we're also wasting time, and time is money, especially as a solopreneur. Is there anyone in here? Are you solopreneurs? Anybody doing this on your own? You got a couple of head nods in there. Okay. Okay. Some people are like, well, yeah, I have a partner, but sometimes I do it on my own. So either way, whether it's one person or a couple of people, it is difficult as a small business to try and get all that marketing in, especially when you have all that noise of you need to do this and this and this in order to get things sold. It can take a little bit. So I say always start with understanding your market first. The other part of that is time, is me. Okay. If you are, again, only you only have so much time and knowledge, understanding, experience. So that is also a barrier, a parameter to look at. You can always do education and that, but that is something that you have to consider. So as you're looking at time as a factor, think of, can I show up consistently, right? If I am going to set a marketing strategy where I'm going to have emails go out every month, do I have enough content for that? Do I know what I'm doing so it can come out consistently? So whoever's following me, whether it's on social media or getting that newsletter, they know when it's going to come out. Now, I don't know if you guys have talked about this yet, probably, but there are some great ways to automate systems to save, and automation and AI are absolutely in marketing. And so if you haven't dove into that yet, I would say dabble, put your toe in. And then try and work in there in specific areas because it definitely helps with this time factor. Will I get everything done? Will this be more or less stressful? Okay, we know that if you add one thing onto your plate, it's going to add some stress. But is this stress going to take away from something you are already doing that is just as important? If it is, maybe we think about a different marketing factor in there. And do I need more education, right? We don't know what we don't know. And as I heard a bunch of mention as we first came on, social media, TikTok, algorithms are changing all the time. Whether it's a video, a short form video now or a longer form, whether I can use AI now or I don't, or I shouldn't be using AI on some things. Things change. And so always keeping that education first and foremost is important as we think about marketing. All right, so let's get into product, one of our first P's. And I don't think you can talk about your product unless you know and understand your people. So that's the jump in that marketing here. I was going to use another picture that I've had from previous about, gosh, maybe 7-ish years ago. And the eggs for a dozen were $1.99. So I don't know about you guys, what you're selling yours for. I just got some from a lady the other day and they were $6.99. So I don't know where you guys are fluctuating right now if you have and are selling eggs. But let's start with our customer, okay? Really, this is a prompting question for you. So who values what you grow? And I don't know what everyone grows. I got a little snapshot of who the individuals in the classroom are, but I don't know what everybody grows. And you may grow again something that is different. You may grow something that is for large families, something that maybe is a little bit cheaper to grow, so that you can provide still this quality, but a little bigger batch. You might grow something that not a lot of North Dakota individuals grow, or people within your area grow. So what is the value you're putting towards it? Is your end consumer or that ideal customer, are they looking for something no one else has? Okay, you're growing a little bit different than if you're going to provide for a family. And who is willing to pay your price? Again, that's what we call, I don't know if you guys have heard the term, but dinks, double income, no kids. They might have a little bit more money to spend on some high-end vegetables. And so if those are the individuals you're looking for, your pricing strategy is going to be different. And what problems are you solving? Are you solving the problem of there's not produce here, or these mushrooms are not grown here? Are you solving the problem of quantity or quality? What is that problem you're solving? And sometimes getting as deep as taking one client or one customer type and then answering all these questions, and then taking a different customer type and answering these questions. And that's kind of the same theme that we use throughout tonight is, okay, maybe I take 3 of my ideal customers or 3 of my main customers, and I think about how would I answer these questions for each of them? And this is, again, how we start building that marketing strategy. So different customers value different things. So here are the examples. So a home cook, if I think of marketing and a marketing strategy and a home cook, what am I going to put out there more? And if you've heard of in social media and just marketing in general, but specifically in social media and newsletter developments, that you should educate more than trying to sell. Has anyone ever heard that? You should educate more than trying to sell? Yes, absolutely. If you just think of yourself, I always try to put myself up there. If I'm scrolling through, or I'm looking at a newsletter and all it is half price this and buy 2 for 1 and do all that. Excellent, great if I'm going to the grocery store and like clipping some coupons. But if I'm consistently trying to build this relationship, I'm going to look for some recipes. I'm going to look for something that's educating me. Maybe I'm a person who I want to be adventurous in food, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what recipes are. I look on Pinterest and I'm overwhelmed. So if I can look at someone who their life is growing these things, that's who I'm going to look for a recipe, because I know it's going to be good, whatever it is. Chef, they're going to think consistency, right? I have to produce this meal this Friday night and next Friday night. I want it to be full of flavor, and it has to be consistent, right? I know I can't serve the same dish, can't taste extremely different today as it will tomorrow. And so they're looking for that. They're looking to make sure that they can get, can you deliver every single week? So when you think of that marketing strategy, it is, consistency. You're using words such as bold flavors or new flavor, unique flavors, anything that a chef is going to want to look at and say like, hey, I could put that on my menu. Wellness buyers. So we talk about people who are willing to pay a little bit more for those high-end products. And so what are the vitamins? What are the macros you're going to be putting on? You're going to either be putting on your handouts that you're going to give, the emails that you're going to send, a bulletin board if you are working in a community space. What are those key things that they want to hear? And that's what you're going to do. So again, when I sit down with clients and we're trying to figure out a marketing mix, I will ask you for 3 clients and we will go down this road with each of them, thinking about their life as they wake up in a day. What do they do? What do they look at? What's important to them as they go to the dinner table? And that helps you kind of really define what kind of, are your products meeting that customer's needs? All right. So any questions as we get to, as we jump into place, any product or people questions? Not all at once, though, please. Okay. All right. So place, we're gonna take a look at the place. Where are we selling this? What channels are we using? As we know where to sell. Again, that's going to help us build out our marketing strategy. So we think about how much time is it going to require? What am I going to set up? So we move our mind as we start to think of marketing, because I think again, and I love that prompting question, the first thing I think of when I think of marketing is social media, right? Well, if I think social media, then usually I'm not going to consider what does my tent look like, right? What does my table look like? Do people feel like they can walk in and touch my greens, which sounds weird, right? Don't want to get too personal here, but picking up the onions, picking up those cucumbers, I want to see and I want to check them out. Is my space set up for that? That is marketing. Marketing is not just what I'm posting online. Marketing is your whole presentation and how you how you look at your channels and how you're selling in those channels. So how consistent are my sales in this space? Okay. You have, again, we said limited time, limited money. What's happening here? And is it helping me? Is it bringing the ROI or return on investment I'm looking for in my marketing strategy? Does this match my personality? Okay. If you are an introvert, kudos. I have one. I married one. But I would not put him at a farmer's market in the front trying to sell and talk to people. Now, he is an amazing guy, and you sit him down one-on-one, and you are going to get deep dive into some excellent mushroom recipes that he has. But he's not going to be the one going and talking to those individuals. So if you are an introvert, you think of more different channels, right? Of the maybe U-Picks or the stands where people can come in and they can interact with the stand. One I saw that was amazing down in Nebraska, it was again just vegetables, right? You're picking out vegetables, but they had a giant whiteboard where people just started talking to each other on this whiteboard. And as they came back every week, they interacted with each other again, like, oh, what recipe did you use? Or what did you cook with this? And they started interacting, right? And so I'm not, obviously I don't know the people who had that stand, but if you're introverted or that's not your personality type, but you still want to have interaction, there's opportunities that way as well. All right. So going back here, looking at our channel overviews, I talked about it a little bit before, but if we look at farmers markets, right, we have high interaction. You got maybe that extroverted individual, but they are weather dependent. Okay. So if I'm thinking weather dependent, I'm putting myself in my customer's space. What do I want to make sure that I have there for them if something happens with the weather? And again, how your customer is treated. We talk about customer service. You cannot take customer service and marketing. You can't split them up, because the whole experience is a marketing experience. Are you building your brand? How do I know that this is your brand? Right? Is your tent like blue, and then your seats are orange, and and your buckets are brown? And I'm not saying you have to color code everything, right? But is there, as I start to know your brand and I look at all the other people who are there at these farmers markets, can I tell you apart? Right? Now, hopefully, and this is what we want, our produce, the jellies that we make, that kind of stuff, that's going to help tell us apart. But when you are building that brand, when you are at the top of your channel, your marketing channel, think of it as a funnel. People don't know you, and you need to bring them in and get them in your funnel somehow. And that's how you start building that brand and that collective and that cohesiveness. They're labor intensive. So is this something that you're willing to do? Because it is to me, a farmer's market is marketing on display. That is what you are doing that whole time, is that customer service and that marketing. Farm stand and U-Pick, we kind of talked about that as we gave examples of introvert versus extrovert, which is also a way to connect with people. Because if I can't make the farmers market, but I'm driving through and I have a minute to sit and maybe pick some pumpkins, I think of the fall specifically. Those are epic. And I always know where that stand is, and then I can go to that stand and get the pumpkins that I need. But when you have that, you know that your personality is not bringing people in. So your signage should be on point, whether it's cute. And I'm not saying it has to be crisp and clean and everything. What is your brand? Is your brand that old farmstead? Is it that rust, looking? What is that? Whatever it is, stick with that. And then build community around that stand. And then restaurants and chefs. So you start thinking your channel, right? I want to sell to restaurants. I want to sell to chefs. I know I'm going to have fewer customers in that space because there are only a finite amount and only a even smaller amount want to get those fresh produce. But you know you're going to have a little bit larger order. So how do I, as I build out my, whether you have a brand menu or sorry, a menu that you send to them so that they can see, okay, I can select to them. I know it sounds weird to send a menu to a chef, but that's what I've seen as I look at my farm to table individuals. They'll kind of put a menu together saying that, hey, here are some of the fresh things we have here. Here's pricing. Here's a little recipe you can use it as. And so how does that marketing shift as you think of someone else? All right. And then, because I am a data nerd, I don't know, anyone else a data nerd? Anyone else like that? No, weirdo. It's okay. I can be a single weirdo. It's fine. But I like to look at what is out there that is telling me that I might be going in the right area or that other people are also going and looking at these spaces. And so this chart, I know it might be hard to read here. We'll definitely gonna send it out, but is looking at small farms, mid-size family farms, kind of large scale. Stay far away from that. But small farms or anything in this rate are anything under 350,000. And your mid-sized family farms are considered anything, and this is I should specify this is your gross cash farm income. And so the mid range is 350 to about $1 million. And so as you can see here, the pink is the small farms, and then our mid size is kind of like a turquoisey color if my tint's coming through on your computer. But we're still seeing this consumers kind of direct consumer space. That's where we're hitting all of our small family farms. You're in the right place if that's what you're doing. If you're in a mid size, we're still in there. We're still in this direct to consumers, but those intermediate markets, that's where we see that a little bit of uptick in there. That's you going directly to a business, those food hubs, those brokers, wholesalers in that space. So, we won't have to dive too deep into this data, but I always like to consider what are other people doing? Am I kind of in that same space, or do I need to be looking at something else? Any question as we move out of this and into pricing? Okay, all righty. I'm not going to hit on pricing too much because I know you guys had an awesome and robust financial time, I guess, workshop before. But pricing is one of the P's. And so to look at it, we consider about three main things as I'm thinking and working with small businesses, especially with products in similar fields as you have. And that would be price needs to cover the true cost. So many times I work with small business owners and they're very passionate. They're very good at what they do, but the financial side is like, I don't really want to do that, right? I want to be out in the garden, or I want to be out in the bakery, or whatever I want to be. And so they start to miss some of those things, or they just take the general pricing, right? Or they take the general expenses, but they don't dive a little bit deeper into some of those other expenses that I call the trickle expenses, meaning the ones that don't seem that big, but as they add up over time, they can be a larger chunk or a larger percentage of the expenses that are falling out if you're not recouping that cost based on the pricing structure that you're building. And so you want to price for sustainability. And that does not mean, again, huge fluctuations in prices, because we know, because we're customers ourselves, right? We go out and buy, whether we're not buying produce or we're buying meats. I'm from Montana, so I come from cattle, sheep, and pig country. And so my high school mascot was a sheep herder, if I can tell you how deep in that country I was at. And so as we're building out and we're buying as customers ourselves, we don't like the price fluctuation. So how do you make it consistent for your clients as well? Price communicates value. And I think that that's a huge thing to think about when you are putting together your pricing strategy. And some communities value things differently. Some clients value things differently. And so make sure you take that into consideration as you're building out your price, not just what's my competitor doing, or here is my, I want maybe maybe a 15% profit margin, and this is what I need to do to get there. Sometimes that value can be something different. So I went to a conference and heard of a situation where a woman was selling scarves, and I think she was selling them for $9.99. She had to go somewhere. An intern came in and she was like, "Hey, I want you to price this new box of scarves $9.99." Well, the intern accidentally put 99, and this was a small kind of touristy town. So $99, almost $100 for scarves, a change. Accidentally, she didn't see this because you have a lot going on as a business owner, but she started to see these scarves that would never go before. Nobody would buy these scarves. She was saying, "This is the last box I'm gonna use." And what happened is she started to see the scarves go more. And she was like, "What in the world has changed? Like, a scarf's coming into fashion. What's going on?" Well, she realized that the price was wrong. But then in that situation, she started asking the people who are buying it, "Why do you like this?" "Oh, this looks like high-end fashion. It looks like something I'm seeing online, something I'm seeing in the magazines." And there, like, is just a clean example. Now, I'm not saying that I want my onions to cost $100. I'm just saying that you should really think about what that value is to your customer and build it along that. And then just a pricing competition is not a great strategy. Gas, if you look at gas companies, they've learned that as well. They might go up a penny or so, but they've learned that we can't drop it far because our competitors will, then we will, and then you're not making any profit. So the other thing I want to know just about looking at marketing in general is that it's suggested that if you're just getting started, you need, again, we look at that funnel, that marketing funnel, that top of it, you need people to know who you are. So you need to put a little bit more of your budget on there. So we're talking about your projected gross revenue, right? So if you think you're going to make this much, and not, then you should put about 10 to 20% of that if you are a new entity. But if you're a growing entity, you have people, they know your brand, you can drop that down to a 5 to 10%. But really, usually when people see that amount, that's like, wow, it's a lot. I just have all these other prices or all these other costs. But we see that people are boosted a little bit more when they put money towards marketing. Any questions on pricing? Like I said, I know you guys went into it deep before. All right, we're going to promotion it up then. This to me is a key area for small and local farms as they're selling to their clients. And it's why buy local. If you don't yet have the why buy local or sharing the story of buying local, I think it is something you can add, whether that's your social media, whether you have a website. These individuals had produced a marketing pamphlet. But it really helps people understand, why is this important? Why are your jellies better than something I can get at the store? I know why now because I've been in and buying in that space, but does everyone? So as we move into the channel of promotion, I like to do a SWOT analysis. Now, have you guys kind of worked on a little bit of a SWOT analysis? Or plan to in the future. But I like SWOT analysis in marketing. I like SWOT analysis all the time. You can talk to my team or my clients I've worked with before. I'm like, okay, it's about that time. SWOT analysis. Let's do it. Because I think you can get comfortable in the space you're in. As soon as you're comfortable, as soon as you're not innovating or keeping up with the latest things, then you start to fall off on sales or fall off on new clients potentially coming in. So always coming back and doing a SWOT analysis. And so in order to know who I should be promoting to, I need to understand and break these down. So I'm going to go through it and think about it as we're going through it, but with your own specific case. So I'm going to look at our strengths, okay? So let's say Janet, right? She is the jelly queen. She has 33 different kinds of jellies. That is her strength. She looks around the farmers market. She looks around the U-Pick stands, any of those. Nobody's selling jellies. at the amount that she is, the different varieties she is. So if I'm thinking a marketing strategy, I'm saying, okay, that's it. That is my strength. I know it is. So I'm going to put something at Janet's Jellies. We have something for everyone, over 33 different flavors. Yes, we have something for old grumpy Uncle, Uncle Smith, right? We have something for him too. So you can play off some stuff. As you build out a marketing strategy, you can say, okay, this is Janet's Jellies, and this is the raspberry and strawberry mix. Perfect for little kids on a Saturday morning. And then you're building that thought process for your client of, oh yeah, that is. Oh man, my little Jill, she loves strawberry jelly, and I could see putting that on her, on her biscuits in the morning on Saturdays. What does that look like? So that's something you do. Play to your strengths and build stories around those. Weaknesses, okay. Let's say you can only get to 3 different farmers markets because of funds this year, right? You can only get to 3. You can use a phrase like, hey, Dan's Produce exclusively in Wahpeton, Harvey, and Castleton farmers market this year. Don't miss out. Okay, you're creating that sense of urgency and being, subconsciously humans. If we're left out of something, we want to be included, right? Subconsciously. And so that could be, even though it's a weakness, you can only get to 3. We can turn this around and make it a positive. And in marketing, it's called marketing spin. Opportunity. So let's look at opportunities. You provide fresh vegetables for your area preschools. Maybe you can collaborate with them and do some marketing, or if they have an open house, you can bring your some of your produce into that open house. And I say produce, obviously there's tons of different things from your local farms. I think I heard a lot of different, I kind of creeped on you and looked up some of the stuff because I want to know what else I can buy that's around my area. So if you guys are near Wahpeton, let me know. I'd like to purchase. But so how do you connect, right? You have an opportunity to work with other people. What do you do then? And how do you showcase what you do best? And then threats, okay? We know that large scale operations, that is one of the biggest threats to small farms, mid-sized farms. And so you kind of focus your strategy around positioning your products. We're premium, we're local, we're specialized, organic, grass-fed. Like those are some of the words that you can pop out. So if people are like, well, yeah, but I can go get this over here for cheaper. Yeah, but do you know what you're getting? You don't have to be, you don't have to be mean about it. You can. I've seen some excellent marketing that is very much like, do you know what you're getting in this? This is what you're getting with us. So look at your marketing strategy and really identify. You can go through each one of these sets and identify marketing strategy around each one. Okay, so just a couple of quick things here as we look at regional marketing realities, and you tell me if this is not what you're seeing in your spaces. As we've worked with different entities around North Dakota into Minnesota a little bit, we still hear word of mouth. Word of the mouth is the biggest thing within those communities. What do you guys think? Is that still pretty big in your area? Yeah. Okay, I got some head nods. It is. And so you building that personality and that story and people wanting to connect with you or wanting to connect with that amazing stuff that you bring to the table, huge. Don't let that go. Whatever you need to do to continue building that word of mouth, absolutely work on it. Church, school bulletin boards, right? A little passive. We can't be everything. Remember, we went marketing time, me and time. We can't be everywhere. So we do need some passive things like billboards, like smaller bulletin boards. We might not have the funds right now for a billboard. So bulletin boards are also an option. Local radios. I know that some local radio will have spots for small business. And so that you can come in. Sometimes they do like charity spots, and it sounds weird, but like you don't have to spend as much money getting on the radio during that time. Now we had that. I know we had that in Montana because we heard our local ranchers come on consistently on there. Now some of them had their big, right? You can also have pay for advertisement on local radio, but look at your clientele. Who are you selling this to? Who listens to the radio and who are you selling it to? Do you think none of your clients really listen to the radio at this time? Well, maybe it's not a good place for you to look, but we're still seeing that as a big push. And then newspapers, right? If you're sitting here, I think it was, who was it? Was it Sloan? You said, well, that's my generation. I'm kind of on social media. You might look at this and be like, a newspaper? What do you mean? But I still see people opening up newspapers and looking at the advertisement, especially if there's a family name in the community. Okay, so we're going to take again just a quick look at this, maybe some strategies, looking at local partnerships, ones that are a little bit more out of the box. Or if you are working with these entities, I'd love to hear more about how it's going for you. But equipment dealers, I've seen some people set up with equipment dealers. They might be showcasing something, right? So they're showcasing a new product of theirs, and you come on. And if you have catering, I've seen some small farms also have catering licenses, and so they'll cater and come in and show and be able to connect with those people coming in and purchasing at that dealer. Seed and input suppliers, elevators, and other local producers. Again, you might be growing things that they are not growing. How do you guys work together in that space? And we'll talk about that as like a cross promotion. Why this works, high trust environments, right? To me, people who grow, people who raise animals, they have just an understanding, a type of being, a personality, right? That is, we know you're hardworking. We know you want to provide the best thing for us. We know that you are about community and giving and that sort of thing. And so there already is this kind of trust built with entities that work in the space of growth and produce. Frequent targeted audience traffic. You know that you're coming in and out of there. There are people coming in and out of there, and they also like, again, the items that you are producing, and establishes community network. I can't strengthen or I cannot stress how important building your community is, knowing about different events, because as you network, you learn about things that you didn't know. You learn that, oh, there's a new opportunity to sell, or hey, there's a new opportunity to come speak about it. I always push my clients to do a speaking engagement somehow. Whatever it's like, if it's about like, how do you market your small farm, or how do you get started, or any kind of opportunity to go and speak is an opportunity for you to market yourself and your brand. Just a couple of examples there. Flyers at service counters, that's passive way. You don't have to be there all the time. It's very passive. Cross promotion, meaning that they're doing something, you're going to jump on with it, and you guys have mutual benefit coming out of it. So those are just kind of some examples. And I know each of you are unique and have different needs in that space, but I really implore you to look out of the box. Look around your community, look if there's anything or anyone that you can partner with, or start to potentially, again, leave flyers. And again, I say this a lot, but if you don't ask, the answer is no. So if you don't ask, can I leave my brochures here? The answer is no. Now, if you ask, the answer also might be no, but it might be absolutely yes. And we're looking for someone to sell, to buy a whole bunch of lettuce. Do you guys, do you grow lettuce? And that's where that networking and connection can happen. All right. And then just a quick thing about branding without social media. A lot of ways to do it. We talked about it, making sure that you have a clear name, professional signage. And again, it doesn't have to be clean. It needs to be your brand. And so whatever that brand is, make sure your signage is consistent with that. Your packaging, your labels are consistent, so that people see, or they go to Nana's house, right? Nana has this amazing jelly, and I need to look on the label and find out who it is. Now I know where to get it from. But if your labeling isn't consistent or doesn't have your contact information or how to get a hold of you on there, you can lose out on some market or some new client entities. Clean booth presentation, I think, is always great to come in if you know you're going to be eating from a place, making sure you're setting up that scene. Now, just having a clean booth is one part of it, but what is that scene that you're setting? And then printed info sheets. Not everyone will look, right? Not everyone's a looker, but that sounds bad. Not everyone's a looker. Sorry if you don't have your hair combed tonight, but not everyone's going to look at these sheets. Some people, however, really like to dive into your story. And so that's the story builds trust. And I can't push this enough. Do you think to yourself right now, take a second and be like, am I Am I really sharing my story? Now, you don't have to share with kids. I know there was some hesitation on there. Absolutely understand that. But how are you sharing your story outside of that? Is it just story of the kids? Is it story about you when you were a kid? Is it a story about your grandparents or how you got into this space? Always story building builds trust. And so making sure that you're taking time to know your story and know how you are promoting that story. So just an overview. We talked about a marketing plan. Everything that we just talked about today can go into your marketing plan. I saw that Jake has an amazing marketing plan for you set up with great questions and great prompts. Here are just everything that we talked about. Again, your target customer, your products, your pricing, sales channels, what are you using, promotions, and then I'm going to end with that goals and metrics because time, money, you don't have all the time, you don't have all the money. So if you do something, is it working for you? Come back to it, set a goal. If it didn't work out or you're not seeing the return on investment that you want, then don't keep using it, right? If email marketing isn't working for you, then don't keep using it. Don't keep spending money to have this email marketing. There's time that you need to spend in order to really get people into that funnel, but I've seen so many people continue to waste money because they're trying and it just isn't the right niche for them. So try it. We don't know until we try, but if it's not working for you, feel free to jump out. It's completely fine. And that is all I have for you today. I'd love if you have any questions. I'd love to. I know you have to move on to the next phase of your journey, but I will stick around. So if there's any questions also at the end, I'd be happy to answer those. There is my contact information. And again, you'll be getting this information. So happy to reach out at any time.
Are there any questions before we keep moving on?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
I did have one.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that.
No worries. One of the things that I was wondering, so obviously money is always an issue. If you are just starting out and you have kind of a limited marketing budget, is there a few places that you would suggest to really funnel that money to? I mean, obviously social media is free for the most part, but is there, something like like a really good logo or labels or investing in a website or something like that? Is there a couple of key pieces that as you get started and get moving that you should be, trying to funnel some money to?
Yeah, great question. I absolutely love that question. And I think focusing in the brand space is a really great place to put your money in the beginning. Now, it doesn't mean you need to go hire an entity to build out this large brand for you. There are free services that can help you build that. Now, if you're growing, if you're in that growth phase and you're ready to kind of transition to a bigger market, absolutely bringing in professionals, I think is a great idea. But setting up your brand, so if that's labels, making sure on those labels, though, you have some way for them to connect back to you. And I know similar to newspaper, there was a thought process about 5 years ago that websites were dead. No, research shows us that people still want to see your website. They still want to go back to somewhere that's laid out so they can find contact information, pictures, and all of that. Some people are like, well, they can just go to social media to see that. Yes and no. Your younger generation, right? They're okay a little bit going to social media and focusing in that space. But right now, the people with the family purchasing power, not people who are single or just starting out, but the people with family purchasing power still want to go to your website. So those would probably be the two main areas that I would recommend working at. And you don't have to get the most expensive website. You just have to make sure it's consistent with your brand. Excellent question.
And I would just say, don't feel like you need to be married to your brand. You're a starting business. You're learning this stuff out. You're learning what works, what doesn't. Feel free to change it as time goes on. Like, this is your business. You can do what you want with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one gentleman who built a logo and he loved it. And he was working in it. But then when I asked, I am a person also, again, data nerd, like I said, I asked my customers all the time, how am I doing? What am I doing? How did you hear about me? To me, the how you heard about me question is the ultimate one you can ask. And it can just be, it doesn't have to be a survey or a form they fill out. It can be, here you go, here are your tomatoes. Hey, by the way, how did you hear about us? And then keeping a notebook of that's how you heard about us. But I had that gentleman, once he did one of those, they said that his logo looked like a man being squished by a waffle maker. And so that was one of the comments. And then other people were like, I don't know your logo. So that was really interesting. But that comment sticks out to me. Your logo looks like a man being squished by a waffle maker.
That's awesome. I know I personally have changed my logo probably 3 times in the 5 years that I've been in business. And this last iteration, I'm getting customers that come up and they're like, "Oh, I love your logo. It's so pretty. It's so nice." So sometimes it just takes a couple of iterations to go through this stuff.
I think so. And I really feel that, some people jump onto the brand as being something tangible, which it is. But the story to me and the feeling and the ambiance you set with your clients, that is even more important. And it helps when you transition from logo or a marketing strategy, something different. They're going to know it's you because of how you made them feel, the excellent produce or other things that they've bought from you. Any other questions? Excellent. Well, you'll have my contact information if you have any, if you want to do a free business coaching. We serve both men and women. And so feel free to reach out. But thank you all.